All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to crack open one of the most critical, and honestly, one of the most misunderstood processes in all of project management: how to truly manage your team. We're going to go way beyond just checking boxes and looking at status reports. We're going to talk about what it really takes to unlock the full potential of the people you're leading.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll set the stage with what I call the team performance puzzle. Then, we'll introduce a really powerful framework for leadership, built right on the PMBOK Guide's principles. We'll break that framework down into its three core parts: observe, influence, and act. And then we'll bring it all together to show you how mastering this one process is your ticket from just being a manager to becoming a genuine leader.
Okay, so let's dive right in with Section 1, the team performance puzzle. And look, this is something I can guarantee every single person leading a project has felt at one point or another. We've all been there.
Just think about it for a second. You did everything right. You assembled an absolute A-team of talented people. Your project structure looks perfect on paper. And yet, something's not clicking. The pace feels slow, you can feel tension simmering just below the surface, and the results, well, they just don't match the talent you've got in the room. So what's going on? Why does this happen so often?
Well, here's the answer, and it's absolutely crucial. The problem usually isn't the people. It's a failure of process. Effective team management is the lever you pull to turn all that raw potential into actual, measurable performance. It's the system you use to track what's going on, give the right feedback, and solve the little problems before they become big ones.
So, if the problem is a lack of process, what's the solution? That brings us to Section 2. We're going to look at the formal PMBO process, but we're going to put a consultant spin on it. We're turning it from a dry academic concept into a dynamic, practical framework for leadership.
So here's the official definition right from the PMBOK Guide. Manage team is the process of tracking performance, giving feedback, resolving issues, and managing changes. But here's the key benefit, the real magic of this process. It's all about influencing team behavior, managing that inevitable conflict, and crushing those nagging issues before they can blow up your project.
Now, it's easy to get lost in all the PMBOK speak of inputs, tools, and outputs. So let's reframe this into a simple, powerful cycle. First, you observe. You track performance, you read the signals, you figure out what's really happening. Then, you influence. You use your leadership toolkit to guide behavior and resolve issues. And finally, you act. You make the tough decisions and you drive real, tangible change. And this isn't a one-and-done thing. It's a loop. You're constantly observing, influencing, and acting.
And this is why that cycle is so transformational. It's the engine that moves you from the column on the left to the column on the right. See, management is about directing, maintaining systems, and just doing things right. But leadership is about guiding, developing people, inspiring trust, and most importantly, doing the right things. Mastering that managed team process is how you make the leap.
All right, let's do a deep dive into the first step of our framework: observe. You can think of this as developing your situational awareness. A great leader isn't just a taskmaster. They're more like a detective, constantly gathering clues and reading the signals coming from their project and their team.
And these are your primary sources of information. Think of them as your project's dashboard. You've got your issue log telling you about known problems. The team charter is your rulebook, the ground rules everyone agreed to. Work performance reports give you the cold, hard data. Are we on schedule? On budget? And finally, team performance assessments tell you the human side of the story. How is everyone actually working together? Your job is to pull all these threads together to see the full picture.
Okay, so you've observed something. You've spotted an issue or an opportunity. Now what? Well, now you move to step 2, influence. This is where you open up your leadership toolkit. And it's not about command and control. It's about skillfully picking the right tool for the job to guide the team back in the right direction.
The PMOK Guide basically gives us two trays in our toolkit. On one side, you have your technical systems, your software, your dashboards, all that good stuff. But the real power, the real leverage, comes from that second category, your interpersonal and team skills. Things like conflict management, decision-making, emotional intelligence. These are the skills that separate the great leaders from the average managers.
You know, let's talk conflict, because it's going to happen. And what's great here is that this gives you a strategic playbook. These are the 5 main techniques. Sometimes for a trivial issue, you might just withdraw or avoid it. Other times, you might smooth things over to protect a relationship. Compromise can get you a quick fix. Forcing a decision is really only for emergencies. But the holy grail,
The real win-win is to collaborate and problem solve. That gets to the root cause and builds real commitment. A great leader knows exactly which one to use and when.
And making good decisions isn't just about having the authority to make a call. It's about running a smart process. It's about constantly asking the right questions. Are we focused on the right goals? Are we just shooting from the hip, or are we following a process? Have we looked at all the data? And have we actually asked the team for their creative ideas? When you do this, you build trust, because the team sees the logic behind your decisions, not just your authority.
And finally, let's talk about emotional intelligence, or EI. Think of this as your radar for the human element of your project. It's about being aware of your own emotions, sure, but more importantly, it's about being able to perceive and positively influence the emotions of your team. High EI is like a superpower. It lets you lower tension, anticipate how people will react, and build the kind of cooperation that makes a team truly great.
Okay, observing is critical. Influencing is powerful. But honestly, neither of them mean a thing if you don't follow through with the final step, action. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's where you take all your insights and decisions and turn them into real, deliberate changes that improve your project's trajectory.
Now, in PMBOK terms, these actions are called outputs. But please, don't think of this as just more paperwork. A change request isn't a form to fill out. It's the formal way you get approval for a new course of action. Updating the project plan isn't a chore. It's how you make your decision the new official reality. And updating things like the issue log and lessons learned register, that's how you make sure the whole organization gets smarter because of what you figured out.
Let's make this super practical. Here's a simple issue log. We've observed an issue. A key team member is missing deadlines, and it's starting to impact our critical path. We've logged it, it has an owner, but look at that status, unresolved. This right here is a documented observation that is screaming for action.
And here's where we close the loop. You use your influence, maybe some coaching, maybe you reassign a task to come up with a solution. Step 1, you submit a change request to make it official. Step 2, you update the project baselines, the schedule, the budget to reflect that change. And Step 3, you close out the issue log and document what you learned. And boom, observe, influence, act. The cycle is complete. The project is back on track.
So let's bring this all home. When you consistently and deliberately run this cycle, day in and day out, you're doing so much more than just managing a project. You are actively building the habits and demonstrating the skills of a true leader.
We're coming back to this slide one last time because, honestly, this is the whole point. That cycle we just walked through, observe, influence, act, that is the engine. It's the practical daily process that physically moves you from the management column on the left over to the leadership column on the right. You stop just directing and you start guiding. You stop relying on control and you start inspiring trust. You become a leader.
And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about when you get back to your own projects. Are you just managing tasks, systems, and timelines? Or are you actively observing, influencing, and acting to lead your team to its absolute highest potential? The choice, and now the framework, is yours. Thanks for your time.